The Cultural Council's mission is to nurture, promote, and support a healthy, diverse, and inclusive cultural sector so that the arts and culture are a part of everyday life for everyone. We invite listeners to discover Florida's cultural capital online at palmbeachesculture.com. Welcome back to the ArtiGras Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Lapierre, and today I am joined by a wonderful, very special guest, David McClymont, CEO of the Palm Beach Symphony. David, thank you so much for being here today
Sarah,
with me.
Sarah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
You are a leader who blends passion, endurance, and data to make classical music come to life and share it with our audience that's ever broadening here in Palm Beach County. So I'm excited to talk to you about a lot of details of how this comes to life. But first, I want to get into the background a little bit, right? Because we're both natives.
We are.
Yeah.
Which we just learned, which is
yeah, it's kind of rare, right?
Rare.
I grew up in Palm Beach Gardens. You're from Jupiter. So you have a history on the water here. You used to do competitive surfing. Tell me a little bit about how you grew up here.
So very much like you, I had the pleasure of growing up in Jupiter. And obviously, if you grow up in Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens, you love the outdoors. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was water. So I grew up at the age of about 12. I started surfing. At the age of 14, I started competing. And then it just became a passion of mine. I grew up playing all the normal sports, soccer and baseball, as part of Jupiter Tequesta Athletic Association. But surfing was my real passion. And I did that until I was about 20 competing. And then at the age of 20, I got into finance, which is what landed me at UBS in Fort Lauderdale. Spent about 3 or 4 years working in finance and then had the great opportunity to go work at Bear Lakes Country Club, which is a Jack Nicklaus design.
Yes.
To 18-hole signature golf courses, beautiful clubhouse, and spent 15 years there before I landed at the Loggerhead Marine Life Center, sort of full circle, coming all the way back to the environment and the water. Had 3 great years there. And then in 2013 was given the opportunity to take over at the Palm Beach Symphony as CEO.
This is incredible. And you've done so much with this time since 2014 when you took over there. I did want to mention, besides the competitive surfing, you've also competed in triathlons. You've done Ironmans, and that's an amazing feat. And now you're running this leadership. You're running the Palm Beach Symphony as CEO. Which one takes more endurance?
It's a good question. I think they're both different. Yeah. I think that you have to have dedication, drive, determination, commitment. And there's parallels between the two, because think about it. If you're training for the Ironman, you have to wake up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to go out and train. There's mornings that you don't want to wake up and go train, but you have to go train. And it's no different in business, right? There's going to be days that you go through that are very challenging, very difficult, that you just have to persevere and get through it. I would say that the Ironman training is more difficult because it's a solo sport. Where within business, when you're working with a wide variety of different committees and board and staff and musicians, that becomes a little more complex because it's not just all on you. Now you really have to focus on team environment and culture and collaboration and making sure that everybody's truly playing off the same sheet of music at the same tempo, pun intended.
I love it.
But it's true.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, from that transition from finance into the environmental area, now into the symphony, what was it that drew you into this opportunity? Music in the art realm was different from what you were working on previously. Was there a moment when you were like, I really want to make this transition, or was there a hesitation?
Well, I had a great, great mentor, Dale McNulty, who was the one that recruited me. So if it wasn't for Dale, I probably wouldn't be at the symphony. And when he said, I think you really need to come to the symphony. We've seen what you and the board and your staff have been able to accomplish at Loggerhead. And we think that you would be successful helping turn around this organization. So I have to really pay a lot of respect and memory to him. He was a big part of it. But, to your question, I think the one thing that intrigued me about the symphony was the fact that there was so much opportunity. So being a business person that likes to grow businesses, if you see a business that has enormous opportunity to grow and make an impact in the community, at that time when I joined, they had celebrated their 40th anniversary.
Wow.
So here's an organization that had been around for 4 decades, yet the 1.6 million people that live in Palm Beach County really didn't know about the symphony. So to me, that was a blank canvas.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it with
exciting
art,
to step up to.
It was an exciting opportunity to paint my picture and build the team that we needed in terms of working with the existing board, building that board, building the staff, and growing the organization.
Yeah. What surprised you most when you arrived there?
The complexity. The complexity. It was very different from any other business. When I was at the club at Bear Lakes, we had 225 or 250 employees, multiple departments. There was a little bit of complexity there, similar at Loggerhead, but the complexity of a world-class orchestra is just incredible in terms of all the moving pieces that it takes to just put on one particular concert, let alone the events, raise the money.
Sure.
So it was very intriguing.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of moving pieces. Okay. This is a question that just popped into my mind this morning because when I'm getting ready for the day, I'm going to put on some music. Are you the person who starts your day with music?
I love music.
What?
I am. And I love all music. So It depends on the mood that I'm in.
Okay.
So I think that was another thing that really benefited me being able to come and be a part of the symphony was how much I loved music. You and I were talking offline about Sunfest.
Yes.
Right. And Sunfest was a terrific festival where you had a potpourri of different bands and music. And I love music. So for me, it just depends on the mood that I'm in. It could be anything from very, very quiet indie music. It could be yoga music. It could be country. It could be rock. It could be classical music. It could be anything. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of music, right? Is that music touches us in different ways. And based on the emotion that you have in that particular time or the mood that you're in, can really determine the music that you want to listen to at that time.
Sure. Or I use it to, elevate. If I feel like I am in a certain way and I want to adjust that volume higher, then I'll put on music that'll do that for me. That'll help me kind of sustain that note, like you were saying.
Absolutely.
You know? Or if I want to switch things and try and get into a different energy, I'll use music to guide me there.
Completely agree.
This morning it was Beastie Boys for me. That's what I was
Beastie
feeling.
Boys.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about, some other career highlights and leadership here. When it comes to your leadership in the Palm Beach Symphony, how do spreadsheets and audience metrics coexist with the immense creativity and creative risk that it might take to produce something really phenomenal?
That's an excellent question because we always say that data drives decisions. And we firmly believe that. However, you have to be a little bit careful if you allow the data to drive the decisions so much so that you actually become myopic in the ability to be creative. So I do believe it's almost like flying a plane, that you've got one wing is sort of the data and the data is driving those decisions. But then the other wing is the creativity and you have to be creative. So the two have to come together at an intersection to be able to help foster the creativity, but use the data to understand, are the decisions that I'm making from a creative standpoint educated decisions? Or am I just going off into the pasture and making wild, brilliant, creative decisions that won't sustain the business?
Sure.
So it's a combination of the two. And that's a very, very good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's a combination that a lot of, artists and I'm sure other professionals in general struggle with, right? Finding the balance between what is the spark leading me to do versus what does the metrics, the data say is sustainable, will be livable. I can, make this a career that is, is functional in my life.
I think it would hold true also with art. So
Absolutely.
If I represented you and we were looking at the data of your art and we said that you sold X number of these paintings, and from a profitability standpoint, it was good, but from a creative standpoint, it wasn't really allowing you to grow or allowing the business to grow. There has to be a combination of the two. So you can't compromise creativity, but you also can't compromise the data that helps drive the creativity, because the data is what drives it. Yeah. Obviously, if you're running the business well and you're following the KPIs, then that will give you the ability to go out and continue to grow the business.
Yeah. Finding that nice happy medium that just lets you soar and keep, going. It's very exciting, which is obviously something you've done very well with the symphony. One of those things was appointing Gerard Schwartz as the music director. And we're talking about somebody who has, I think, 9 Emmys and 14 Grammy nominations.
That is correct.
Big deal. So that was just a landmark move for the symphony. What kind of, signal led you to that decision and how it's been for the past years with him?
So I share this story often, and it was sort of serendipity. At that time, our previous conductor his brand and his reputation and popularity was growing within the opera world. And it was about 3 weeks before our first and only concert at the Kravis Center. We had been working so hard to grow the organization, grow the audience base to get to a point where we could actually perform at the Kravis Center. And we finally get that opportunity. And it's about 3 weeks before this concert at the Kravis. And our conductor calls up and says, I have good news and I have bad news. And we said, okay, what's the bad news? He said, the bad news is, with your permission, I'm not able to conduct this concert at the Kravis Center. And we said, okay, what's the good news?
Yeah.
He said, the good news is that I've been given the opportunity to conduct the Vienna Opera. So here he is, this 30-year-old Spanish conductor that his stock's climbing. Yeah. We went to the board and I said to the board, what do you want to do? I feel like we could probably get a guest conductor to come in. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for this individual. Can we release him? And the board said, yes, we can release him, but let's make sure that we have somebody to back up that opportunity. So I reached out to Jerry, just serendipitous. And I said, by any chance, are you going to be available on April 19th or whatever day it was to conduct our concert? And he said, let me take a look. What we did not know at that time was that he was in the final stages of interviewing for the director of orchestral music at the University of Miami Frost School of Music. So all the planets lined up perfectly. He looked at his calendar and he said, as a matter of fact, I will actually be in Florida at that time and I will be available. He comes and he conducts the concert. He does a terrific job. Obviously, the musicians thrived off of his leadership, his creativity, his ability to draw out of those musicians things that I don't think they really realized that they had in them, which is a sign of great leadership. And that was what started the opportunity. He did a great job. We had a lunch following after that. And I said, by any chance, would you be interested in guest conducting more? Because we knew that our previous conductor's availability was decreasing. And he said, I think I might, with a sort of little wink. And then he said, by the way, I've just accepted the position as director of orchestral music. So I'll be in Miami a lot more and I would love to conduct as much as we could. And that was how we were able to get Jerry to become the music director. And to your question, he has elevated the music, our artistic excellence, programming, creativity, guest artists. I think one of the many advantages, Sarah, of him is that he's been in the business so long and he's worked with some of the best guest artists literally in the world that he just picks up the phone and speed dials them and says, you want to come play in the band? And they say, I'd love to come play in the band. So you have people like Misha Dichter, who we just have. We just have Emmanuel Axe that's going to be in May. These are some of the biggest guest artists that anyone would ever go see that are at all of the big orchestras throughout the country. And he's been a really big part of that. So it's been incredible and we actually just won our first Emmy.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, December the 6th, we went down to the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood and won our first Emmy for our children's concert, Carnival of More Animals.
Incredible.
Which, talking about partnerships and collaborations, just to get a little bit off topic, was a partnership with Forrest Galante.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Who is obviously, one of the biggest people in the animal world right now. So he narrated this children's concert called Carnival of More Animals. And why we did that was because Olga Vasquez, who's our director of artistic operations, said, listen, she's also from Florida. She grew up in West Palm. We live here in Florida. Why don't we highlight the Everglades and why don't we recreate and re-engineer Carnival of Animals, which everybody knows that program. We all grew up listening to Carnival of Animals. She said, why don't we recreate it, call it Carnival of More Animals and showcase all of the indigenous species that are within our area. And then why don't we go to Forrest Galante, which we never thought we'd be able to get him. And we did get him. And then he was the one that narrated. And Carlos Lopez, who was the engineer, was the one that on December the 6th just won our first Emmy.
That is fantastic. Oh, that's so exciting to hear all of these, beautiful, just symbiotic relationships coming together, right? Just aligning for that special moment. And congratulations on the recognition. That's a beautiful thing. I love to hear that. Oh man. I wanted to also know a little bit behind the curtain, so to speak, if there's any, moment that you've had with your years in the symphony that, a special moment behind the scenes that people in the audience attending might not know, something behind the scenes, what it takes.
I think there's so many. That's another great
sure.
question. And I don't know that there's just one. I could give you a variety of them. Last season, we had a marching band that came and performed to open up the concert right before we had somebody guest conduct the national anthem that they won through a live bidding auction at the gala. There are moments where some of the students in Palm Beach County get to come to some of our master classes and to see the looks on their faces, being able to sit right next to Misha Dichter, who's giving a piano master class, who's one of the best pianists in the world. And it's about access. It's the 100 kids in Palm Beach County that are mostly from Title I schools that we invite to our concerts, every single concert, looking up into the balcony and seeing their expressions. So a lot of it, I think, Sarah, is based on emotion. Of course, there's unique things that happen behind the curtain that people wouldn't think happen that are really interesting, that involve lighting and music stands and trivial things that are in the production of the performance. But for us, it's really trying to create and evoke an emotion and an experience for the people that get exposed to our mission.
Yeah. I love that. And there's so much, I'm of course going over all the information on the website, and I, prior to this conversation, the programming, the events, the outreach that happens now with the symphony is incredible. And I think you've become an integral part of the cultural community here in Palm Beach County. When did you, kind of see that shift happening more into really broadening your reach here in Palm Beach County and how you access and how you make yourself available and known to people here?
Well, if you look at any nonprofit, we feel that it's extremely important that you ask two questions. Number one, is the mission relevant? And if the mission is relevant, then are you living up to that mission? So when we got started, we looked at the mission, and the mission said to engage, educate, and entertain. Pretty solid mission, right? The question then became, are we living up to it? So going back to the data, we started to measure what are we doing within those three pillars to engage, educate, and entertain. And what we learned at that time was that we weren't doing anything in education. So there was tremendous opportunity for us to do a wide variety of things in education. So we partnered with the school district, and we went to the superintendent and we said, help us understand where the need is within Palm Beach County. And we did sort of a needs analysis. And what we learned were the most basic things. The conservatory school at North Palm, which is right down the road from where we're recording this right now, there was a student there in 7th grade that needed a cello. Just a cello. That's all they needed. Belvedere Elementary School, that's in Belvedere, had 20 brand new violins that were sitting in boxes, nobody to teach. So we really started to embark on this educational outreach initiative to try to start filling the needs within the county. And now that's turned into us educating 90,000 Palm Beach County students, giving away at the Holly Jolly just recently our 1,000th instrument, having master classes, coaching sessions. And now, thanks to Paul and Karen Levy, we actually have the Paul and Karen Levy residency program, where we're going into 9 Palm Beach County schools, and we're basically supporting and supplementing their music program with our musicians in professional residency programs.
Oh, that's so cool.
So for us, it's been so exciting to see the difference that we can make from the educational standpoint. Obviously, when you start to make an impact on the youth, then that gives you the opportunity to continue to grow that organization and the art form that we're in. Because if we can inspire them and give them tools to be successful, then we have an opportunity to continue to sustain our business for years to come.
Absolutely. And, speaking on more of the programming and outreach and all of these things combined, I mean, it's a packed season always here, every year in Palm Beach County. How do you put together these events and these ongoings that, make the symphony a must-see, a must experience?
It's an excellent question. I think it goes back to me working in the club business. And when I was in the club business, I realized that you had to exceed the expectations of the people that you had that were members. So it was very similar when we were at the club. We were one club that was surrounded by a bunch of great clubs, right? So what is going to make us different? What is our differentiating value proposition? We felt that if we could exceed the expectations of our members, then we had a strong chance of retaining those members. So when it goes to the symphony, it's the exact same. The baseline for us is having good music and good programming. That's the baseline, right? We're also surrounded by a bunch of great nonprofits. So in essence, we're competing with them. We're competing with you coming to us instead of going to the ballet or the opera or the Maltz or anyone else.
And all the other galas that are happening and all the,
right. Okay. So the first thing that we do is we work very closely with the social calendars to make sure that we're not creating an event that happens to be on the exact same day as another great institution's event.
A challenge in itself.
That is a challenge in itself. That's a Rubik's Cube, right? Just because, as you said, it's so compressed. There's so much that's going on. It's very difficult for us to navigate that labyrinth, but we do. Then the next thing that we do is we try to best understand, if you were to come to this event, what could we do to exceed the expectations from an emotional and an experiential standpoint? So we make every effort to put together 5-star service. For example, we have a concierge. One would ask, why does a small nonprofit have a concierge? because I wanted to go back to that method at the private country club of exceeding the expectations of our donors and patrons. So the concierge manages the box office, the concierge manages all of our major donors. And sort of the answer is yes, what's the question? Is the mentality where we will get tickets on Broadway for our donors. We'll help facilitate surgeries with hospital for special surgery. The answer is yes, what's the question? So it's really about trying to exceed those expectations from an experience standpoint.
Yeah, that's incredible. And certainly I would imagine, just like you said, is making that difference, is saying, here's our baseline. How can we elevate that? And really
and another thing, if I can just add to that, is we created about 3 years ago a program called Meet Me in the Mezzanine. And part of why we created that is that we would be in the lobby of the Kravis Center and we would look up a couple of floors and see the mezzanine floor, and it was always dark. And it always looked sad and depressing. And the team said, why don't we come up with something that will literally put butter in the frying pan? It will ignite the mezzanine level to have it be unique and exciting. So we went to all the great nonprofits and all the great associations in Palm Beach County, including Palm Beach Chamber North, Palm Beach Chamber, West Palm Beach Chamber, Nonprofits First, Rotary Club, and the list goes on and on and on. We said, why don't you occupy that space as a networking event? We're going to give you tickets. Basically, we're going to give away the tickets. You get a glass of champagne. You get to meet the musicians at intermission. And then now that became this entity in and of itself where people could come experience Palm Beach Symphony, but in a unique, exciting, experiential way with a glass of champagne, meet the musicians, and also use it as a networking opportunity. So it's thinking outside the box. It's trying to think outside of just the art form. What can we do to add value to the people that are coming beyond the music? Because that's the baseline.
What a beautiful doorway too, because it's just another opportunity to, invite someone in who maybe doesn't think the symphony's for them, doesn't think their taste lies in classical music, but, they're interested in networking, and there's a lot of nonprofits and people that they might, and they like the beautiful setting of the Kravis. So it's an excellent, doorway into, getting these people to come and experience and then learn more about it and say, oh, this is an opportunity. This is a place where I can find passion and beauty and enjoy that art form without thinking that they have to be a part of the culture first.
So well said. So one of the challenges that we have is the intimidation factor, right? So I grew up surfing here. So I'll go surfing at the Juneau Pier and I'll see a lot of my old surfing friends and they'll say, hey, David, when can I come to a symphony concert? And I say to them, anytime you want. The perception is that they have to put on a fancy suit or a fancy dress and they have to have lots of money. We created the Meet Me in the Mezzanine to have that be an entree to realize that you can come as you are, that it is accessible, that it is enjoyable, and that you'll be surprised when you actually come there and experience the music.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. The accessibility of it, I think is such a great way, to enter in and feel like, oh, I can belong here. I don't have to be a certain way, dress a certain way, be a part of a certain, status in this area to be a part of that experience. And I love that it, obviously includes the networking is fantastic too, because there's plenty of networking opportunities, but not all of them include a symphony orchestra at the same time. So that's fantastic. I love that. All right. Well, I do want to look ahead a little bit. We are going to take just a teeny short break. We are going to hear a word from our sponsor, our wonderful sponsor, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. So check out this message from them and we will be right back.
Those dinner reservations and tea times will have to wait because there's an art-filled paradise beyond these beaches. A mecca of masterpieces, spectacular sights by day and night. A cultural capital that's calling your name. See so much more than you came for in the Palm Beaches.
Okay, so we're going to do a little quick segment here that is new for this show. And who knows what it'll evolve into, but we want to get a little creative extra support for the artists and the creatives who might be enjoying this episode. So we're going to call it Art Beat, and we're going to take a quick minute and give a little suggestion to our creatives in Palm Beach County of ways to get more engaged within the culture here. If there's somebody who's looking for, how do I find out about things? How do I become a part of things? Where do I plug in? Where are my people? How do I fit into this community? The way that I'm going to bring up this time is volunteerism.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an excellent way. And if you're somebody who has an abundance of time or even just a little bit of time, it's an excellent way to get plugged into the kind of events and arenas that you're interested in. And I know volunteerism has been a longstanding part since the foundation, I think, of the symphony. Since its early days, it was run by volunteer staff, right?
That's right.
So those hours, that time devoted to a passion or even just maybe a little interest, can expand into something so monumental, whether it's in your own life directly or in the life of this area, this community at large. So I'm going to encourage people to get into volunteerism. Like I said, if they have a lot of time or a little bit of time, I would love to know some of the ways that volunteers support the symphony. If that's something you can tell us about.
Of course, absolutely. Do you want to tell me now?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's many different ways that people can volunteer with Palm Beach Symphony, and that would include serving on our board, serving on committees, but it also includes helping us manage the events. We need volunteers at our 2 annual events, the Holly Jolly, which takes place in December. Our big gala takes place at the Breakers on February the 16th. It could be patrons at the concerts. It could be helping in marketing. It's really a wide variety of things. And what's so fascinating is what you said early on is lining up people's experience and passion with our need. And it's pretty surprising how many people are in this community that maybe don't fish or play golf or have the same activities that people do, that are looking for something to do that's impactful. And I think that's where, not just with Palm Beach Symphony, but so many other nonprofits, there's so much opportunity. It reminds me of when I was at Loggerhead, we had 300 or 400 volunteers at that time. I'm sure they have many more now. We would not have been able to run that campus if we did not have these volunteers volunteering in the gift shop and in the turtle yard and the education department, the field trips. So volunteerism for nonprofits is critical for our success. But I do think it's a little bit symbiotic, because when they volunteer with the organization, they also benefit too.
Absolutely.
Understanding the impact that they're making, and they truly are making an impact. And then hopefully also experiencing some of the performances as a result of being involved with those nonprofits.
Yeah. And including even just things like growing skills. If you're somebody who is developing, I'm just going to use graphic design, because I feel like flyers are always, somebody is always saying, I need somebody to design this flyer for me for this event. There's an opportunity to develop skills more and, develop into the areas of interest while giving back, supporting, growing in the community. So,
and adding your talents and your skills. So we do these lunch and learns every Thursday before the concert. And I would love to promote those as well on your show, because they're a big opportunity for people to come learn so much about the music and the intricacies of the music. What was happening at that time in the world? What was happening with politics? What was happening with religion? What was happening with the composer? Why was the composer's state that way? The reason I bring up the lunch and learn is this most recent one we had a gentleman come up to us and say, do you need any help managing your data? And we said, of course, we always need help managing data. Why do you ask? He said, well, I used to work for Salesforce for 30 years. And we said, you might be a pretty good candidate to help us manage our data. May we have lunch to learn more about you and how you, and he said, it would be my pleasure. So it's really fascinating when you think about the needs that nonprofits have. And obviously we're nonprofit, we're not for-profit. So we don't have the financial resources that these big for-profits have to be able to go out and hire the data expert. So volunteerism is so important for us.
That's incredible. And I love to learn about the lunch and learn. That's a fascinating aspect and another avenue to open up more and expand that knowledge and curiosity of what is behind this music, this performance, all of those details. Just add that much more layer and character and depth to that art form, which is already incredible. I love that that's an opportunity that people can engage with there. So want to talk a little bit more about community, the education outreach. I know we already touched on that a little bit. Obviously getting connected with the young people is so vital to a growing, expanding ecosystem. And, I would love to hear some more of the ways that students of music and maybe kids who aren't into music yet or into classical music yet can engage with the symphony and get involved, whether that's through their school or coming to other programming, things like that, or, finding the symphony out in the wild, as I have experienced sometimes, which is always fun.
So again, we really focus on accessibility. And a big part of that is through our educational outreach program. We have free children's concerts. We do in-class concerts with students. And then every single concert, we have at a minimum 100 students that will come to experience our world-class performances. We also have side-by-side performance opportunities where we'll have students that will perform side by side with our musicians. Even in our big Masterworks concert this past May, we had, I think it was about 180 musicians, and there was approximately 70 or 80 of ours and another 110 or so of community musicians as young as 7th grade and as old as 82 years old that we invited to come perform with us. We also have a great Young Friends group that's going into its 13th year, where we have 6 events that take place for people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and try to create unique experiences again. So we have parties at people's homes where we have music. We do events out at Polo for Polo on Sundays. And again, it's really trying to expose every segment of the demographic to our art form to educate them. And hopefully if we do, then we can engage them and entertain them. And then it just becomes this cycle so they can learn more about the organization and break down those barriers of perception. I think there's barriers of perception that what is classical music? And I say this all the time. Do people realize you have composers like Brian Tyler, right? So anybody that watches Netflix and watched Yellowstone, that's Brian Tyler, right? Brian Tyler also does F1, and Brian Tyler does movies, and you have Hans Zimmer, and you have John Williams, anybody that's watched any of the Star Wars films.
Yeah, whether they know it or not,
it's classical
music has been an integral part of, their life all along through different forms of media.
Right. And so what makes the classical music so special in any of these different movies or even video games is the emotion, right? So if we watch a movie on Netflix and it's a movie that we love, and then we go tell everybody that we can tell about that particular movie, what makes that movie special? A big part of that, in addition to the acting, the screen, and everything else that they put into that movie, is the music, right? Because it's taking you on this journey of this emotion. You either get sad, you get happy, you get mad, you get angry, you get all these emotions, and it's the music that's creating that, right? So I feel we have an opportunity to continue to educate the community. The classical music is so much more than your original optics of what it is. It's deeper than that. It's video games. For every single kid that plays video games, I have a 14-year-old that loves playing video games. Guess what kind of music most of that music is?
We have been to video game concerts specifically where, their orchestra is playing just the music from video games. Right. And it's incredible music. I mean, the compositions in some of these games are just world-class, phenomenal, really exciting, drives the interest and, the whole story. And it's wonderful.
Well, going back to the Emmys, one of our assistant conductors, Alberto Made, just won his 11th Emmy. 11 Emmys. And take a wild guess what all 11 Emmys were for. Video games.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And not surprising in these days. I mean, the productions of these, one of my partner's favorite musician is a video game composer. I'm going to forget his name, but he did Square Enix video games, and he had the opportunity to go see him once in Orlando. And it was just his favorite experience of live music ever to see this composer and to experience that music firsthand when he's grown up with it his life in video games.
Right. In the raw.
Yeah.
As it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So the opportunities to, connect and expand and draw people's curiosity and attention and realize the way that they're already connected to classical music so deeply without having to, again, feel like there's a barrier there. They're already a part of it. So why not come and support it in person, in the flesh, with these incredible musicians and guest composers and conductors that you have coming in. Speaking of conducting, I got to experience conducting one time. And it was when I don't remember the programming, but it was down at City Place, where there were some of the musicians that were out, and there was a little setup. Yep. And there was a moment of like, come up and be a guest conductor for the symphony.
That was us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it was just so fun to see that, I did it myself, which felt ridiculous, but so fun at the same time. But it was more special to see the rest of the people, kids walk up, grab, I don't even know what is this called?
Baton.
A baton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Grab the baton and start to try different things and see the reactions of the musician and realize like, oh, this is a real active relationship happening right now. And I have some sort of contribution to that, and see those little sparks and light bulbs happen was just incredible.
I'm so glad that you participated in that.
Oh yeah. I loved it. And it's both, it's hilarious. I think I've seen it twice now because I used to have a studio over at the Peach down in West Palm Beach. And you also, had the symphony come out
Antique
one time.
Row.
Yes.
With Jeremy.
And it's just so fun. Every time it's different, it's unique, and it's just such a special, I'm going to use the word sparkly because you just see.
Well, it is. And I love what you said.
Emotional bubbles happen for people.
Well, what you said is so beautiful, and it's so true, is that you realize the relationship that the conductor has with the musicians, where if you start speeding up, then the musicians are going to start speeding up. If you slow down, or if you say, play it louder, they're going to play it louder. Or if you see, somebody
walks up and there's hesitation, and the musicians use the hesitation.
That's right.
And I mean, any little adjustment, it was just so special to see and experience that firsthand. So I loved that you had that available to people, because it really is another level of connection that was so unique. What a great little outreach, moment for people to jump in on, literally. I wanted to talk, as I could keep going with you all day here. I feel like I've always got so many questions, and you are a fascinating wealth of knowledge, not just from your background here in Palm Beach County, but also, all of the entities that you've been a part of here that are really local pillars. But I do want to talk a little bit about looking forward again. Can you tell me about some of the events and programmings, concerts, things like that we should be looking out for? I know every year is something special and different, but tell me about what is coming up now that I should keep my eyes out for.
So we are in the middle of our season, our 25-26 season, and we still have 3 more concerts left: January, March, April, actually 4 in May. I would say that all of them are going to be unbelievable, but I think one of the ones that's going to be really special is Emmanuel Acts in May. May 17th will be the closing of our season. And that's a concert that I think people would really want to see. In addition to that, our special event, the 24th annual gala, is coming up at the Breakers on February the 16th. That's a great opportunity for people to experience not only the music, but obviously an amazing event at the Breakers with a great menu, dancing, and beautiful experience. That night we give away our we give away our Lisa Bruna B. Major Award. And the Lisa Bruna B. Major Award, which is very special to us, is an opportunity for students that are matriculating to universities and conservatories that don't have a high-level instrument. So we do an audition process throughout all of Palm Beach County. Any student that's in 12th grade that wants to audition can audition. And then we have a $50,000 fund where we give away 3 instruments to these local Palm Beach County students. And that night, we will award the Lisa Bruna B. Major Award winner. And that particular student will perform in front of 500 people at the Breakers.
Wow. Oh, what an incredible program that is. That's so exciting. Gosh, what a special thing to do for those students. And yeah, a beautiful event. I know that you couldn't go wrong with anybody attending any of those events, but it does sound like May will be an exciting one for sure. Another little back to the community moment here. How does the diversity of Palm Beach County influence the way that you think about the symphony's future and where you see it going or expanding or growing?
I think there are many layers to that. And that's another great question. You could think of diversity in terms of demographic. I think one of the things that's fascinating about Palm Beach County is that Palm Beach County is such a big county. And one of the challenges that we as a professional orchestra have is the fact that there's really only one performing arts center in Palm Beach County, and it's Kravis Center. So I mention that because going back to Palm Beach County being such a big county, the county goes as far south as Boca, right? But Boca Raton doesn't have a performing arts center. It goes as far north as Tequesta, county line, and there isn't a performing arts center in Wellington or Jupiter or Palm Beach Gardens. So there's an opportunity for us demographically to draw upon the diversity that's in Palm Beach County just purely from geography, from geographics. But then in light of what's been happening in the last 3 to 5 years with Kelly Smallridge at the BDB and all the great work that they're doing with the Business Development Board is that now West Palm is one of the hottest cities in the world right now, if not the hottest city in the country. And they're calling it Wall Street South, and they've titled it that. So I think we're all going to see a tremendous opportunity to continue to grow our art form if we're able to go reach out to those people that are coming into the community, and more importantly, learn more about them. So as we start to have more and more people coming into the community, what we're trying to better understand, where are you coming from? You know, if you moved from Louisville, were you involved with the Louisville Symphony? If you moved from Tennessee, were you involved in the Nashville Symphony? You weren't. Were you involved in art? And it's not just for the symphony. I think this holds true for ArtiGras and every other organization that's in Palm Beach County is trying to understand more about, this goes back to the data, right? So if we understand the data, how many people are moving to Palm Beach County per day? Where are they going? Why are they going there? And the more that we start to understand that, the more we can then try to reach out to them to engage, educate, and entertain them and continue to grow this brand. And more importantly, add value to them moving to this community. Because it really becomes about people that are moving to the community wanting to know, what do I do? Yeah. I know that when I travel, first thing that I do when I go to a city is try to understand, okay, I'm here for 2 or 3 days. What can I do that I think will be interesting? That's unique, that's different? What does the city have to offer me that I will walk away from this trip saying, that was absolutely incredible? All of us have that same opportunity with the people that are moving to the community to make sure that we're connecting the dots so that they understand what a tremendous cultural landscape Palm Beach County offers now.
Yeah, absolutely. The ecosystem here is, you know, has so much depth and variety, and there is this immense cultural richness that we have that, we just need to make sure people know about and find ways to experience and connect them to it. It's a great answer. I did want to know if you could magically wave the baton and get a group of people to fall in love with the symphony and, you know, usher them right into the performances. Who would that be? If you could open it up to like one group that you'd be like, got to get them in here.
I don't know that it's a group, because I think Meet Me in the Mezzanine is starting to serve that. Yeah. Is that we're reaching out to the Junior League and the Rotary Club and some of these banks and the Palm Beach Chamber and North Palm Beach Chamber. That I think is starting it, because we're going to these associations that maybe otherwise would not have come to experience a world-class classical concert, right? But now, because of the Meet Me in the Mezzanine conduit and the event and the experience that you receive through that, people are now starting to whet the appetite and whet the palate to understand that it's not what they were perceiving. So I would say, to answer your question, we would continue to go to a lot of these different associations, even some of the assisted living places that are here in the condos, and working with the concierge at the hotels to make sure that people understand that, one, we're accessible, two, it won't break the bank to come, and three, you're probably going to be surprised. Yeah. And you're probably going to find peers there already. Yeah. So why not have a little experience that might be different and unique? That's wonderful. I'm glad that that's already something that exists. Nothing excites me more when there's already, you know, an answer to the question, a solution that's already in progress and just developing more and opening those doors further. Second to last question here, which I ask of every guest who comes on, which is just that if you could recommend one, could be an event, could be a place, could be a public work of art, something that people living or visiting Palm Beach County should experience in the arts and culture sector when they come here. And we're going to put the symphony aside for a minute, because we already know that they should experience the symphony, but is there anything else that you would, you know, recommend anybody? You've got to check this out. I think there are too many to answer with just one.
There's a lot.
And I really mean that. You know, I think about the fact that in Jupiter, you have the Maltz Jupiter Theater, which is run by Andrew Cato, who's phenomenal.
He is.
And
he's great.
People would be so surprised going to that, what used to be small theater. It's not small anymore because they've done such a great job growing it, but experiencing some of the unbelievable theater that's within there. You have Palm Beach Drama Works, which is similar in West Palm. Obviously, the Norton is one of the best museums that you could have now. The Kravis Center, the programming that Diane and her team have created at the Kravis Center, I think is incredible, with everything from comedians to rock bands to great Broadway plays, you name it. You know, of course, people that like ballet, we have a couple of great ballets. Palm Beach Ballet with Colleen is phenomenal, and they're growing leaps and bounds. You have the opera, and the opera is continuing to blossom. So I would be remiss if I just said one, because it's true. There are so many in our community that offer so much to the people that live in this community that I don't think people realize. I don't think people realize that you could go to the Maltz Jupiter Theater and see a play that's as good as any play in Broadway, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And that they've also designed their whole set, stage, costumes, everything is all in-house, which is incredibly unique as well.
Right. That in and of itself. They're not buying it in a box and unwrapping it.
It is, everything there is their show, their production. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a totally reasonable answer, that it's impossible to answer with just one, that there's so much opportunity here for people to get plugged into. And I want there to be no hidden gems. You know, we want the gems on full display. People should know about them. There are opportunities here to just plug into every kind of arts, no matter what you're interested, or even if you think, arts, that's not my realm. There's something, like you kind of said, you know, early on, your days of visiting ArtiGras and walking around the art show, and how that eventually you got, you know, to see, oh, this is what draws me. And these are my, you know, here lies my style and what catches the eye for me. So it's just one of those
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think I'm an example of what I'm talking about with the classical music, right? I don't consider myself to be a consumer of art or educated with art, but me being exposed to ArtiGras opened up my eyes in ways that I never thought, to start to understand. And as you said, really start to define my own likes, style, affinities, if you will, towards the art. And if it wasn't for ArtiGras, I can tell you that I wouldn't be where I am in the world of art, which is still very limited, but it's a start, right? So it's having that access, and it's having unique events. And ArtiGras is a classic example of that.
It is. It is 44, coming up on 41 years
which is
of
incredible.
It.
You and I were talking about that offline, and I can't believe that it's been that many years.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, last question is an easy one. Where can people get connected with you further and connected with the symphony further? If they, you know, whether they want to buy tickets, they want to read more about it, they want to experience some of the concerts, where can they get plugged in?
So great question. And thank you for the opportunity to share that. So it's www.palmbeachsymphony.org. www.palmbeachsymphony.org.
Amazing.
And obviously they can contact us. All the information's on there as far as the special events, the children's concerts, the upcoming concerts. And I really appreciate this opportunity to be on the show.
I am so grateful to have you here, and thank you for sharing your story and, you know, all this wonderful wealth of knowledge that you have about the symphony. And like I said, I'm excited to always share these things so that there are no hidden gems and people know what's available to them here, and how much culture there is to enjoy. So thank you again. I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, once again, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. And thank you to our viewers and listeners for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time on the ArtiGras Podcast.